I am Dr. Donald DeFabio, and welcome to the Mayor's Roundtable. Two men, intelligent conversation around a semi-round table. It's all about what's happening in Berkeley Heights as it happens with the mayor, Robert Woodruff. Mayor, welcome back from the summer break. We had a little hiatus in the summer, and you had a nice little break. You all geared up for the beginning of the new year, so to speak, September school year. You fired up?
That's correct, ready to go. Some things have happened. Usually August is a slow month, but we had some things come down very recently, as you well know, and we're anxious to get the information out to the people.
Well, that's good. I know we're going to talk about the last night's planning board meeting in a moment, but first let's back up a little bit. A lot of what we've been talking about this year has been the redevelopment, the swap, the affordable housing, and COA. And we're throwing around lots of terms and definitions. Let's just recap a little bit about redevelopment. What is it? What does it mean? And because that's really on everybody's mind, and that's what happened last night. So let's recap a little bit.
Okay, hopefully in short order. The redevelopment involves multiple pieces of property in the town, one of which is the township property in which we are now.
Okay, City Hall area.
Which has been declared redevelopment some time ago.
I think back in '78 or something was the first one it was declared.
Right, but it was declared recently, and there are three other significant portions of property. One is down near the sewage plant, down in Snyder at that end. The other is the library.
Got it.
And the other is Little Flower Church property on Hamilton.
Okay.
So obviously, as everyone knows in this town, that there have been discussions for the last really 2 to almost 3 years about putting together what is commonly known as a swap. We refer to it as a redevelopment. And that is the decision has been made by this township that this building, that we are in, is going to be the subject of redevelopment, a new building. We are in the process of having our architect come forward, probably within the very near future, on what he sees as the plan which the council really approved about a month or so ago, and that is commonly known as Plan C. Okay. It's kind of a hybrid of A and B, and it's on this property. And therefore
basically we're going to keep City Hall here.
You got it. We're going to keep City Hall here.
Municipal offices here.
Everything here. Library moved here.
Library moved here.
Library
okay.
Moved here.
All right.
And then
so that means the library area is now vacant. Okay.
Library's area is vacant, and library area is the concern of the Little Flower Church. They wish to procure that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
Right. And
which
then
leaves the Hamilton area
correct.
Available for?
Well, what we have decided to do is we are going to hopefully have that declared redevelopment, which we'll talk about shortly, and then in fact redevelop it and put that out to various sources. Our township planner has made a recommendation, which we believe will afford us the greatest opportunity to receive monies back, which will diminish the cost, which is not insubstantial of putting a building up here. Mm-hmm. And we think we can perhaps lower the cost by as much as 30 to 40%.
Wow.
And maybe more if things work our way.
Sure.
I noticed that the Fed didn't raise interest rates, so
like
that makes everything a little bit easier when it comes to getting money. Money's cheap. Mm-hmm. And that helps for us. So that's in a nutshell.
And what about the Snyder Avenue? Did that get into the mix?
Well, yes,
or no?
the Snyder Avenue property, which is located down on the near the sewage plant.
Exactly.
There's 3 or 4.
So what's going to happen up there?
Well, that affords us an opportunity because we do own some land there that I think is appropriate for possibly redevelopment. Okay. And so that gives us a chance to address some of our other needs with respect to COA, which we're going to do shortly, because as we all know, they are intertwined.
Okay, that's the COA is now another term is the affordable housing it used to be called, or even before that, Mount Laurel.
Correct.
So, little recap, but the bottom line is last night, September 16th, 2015, the planning board met. What happened?
That's correct. The planning board met and, in fact, voted to accept our planner's recommendation that those properties that I've just mentioned, that would be the Hamilton, the library property, and the property adjacent to the sewage area, the plant area, are appropriate areas for redevelopment. So they voted yes.
Okay, great. Good news.
Which is tremendous news. Now, they will adopt that at the next meeting, which I'm not sure. I believe it's either the end of this month or very early
Approximately
October.
2 weeks.
Yes, very early next October. Okay. In October. At which point in time it now comes back to the council.
Got it.
And for the council to vote as to whether they believe that redevelopment as outlined by our planner is the appropriate thing to do.
Now, will you also be voting on Plan C at that time, or you're just voting on redevelopment in general?
We hope to have Plan C flushed out, because Plan C is going to give us a little more specifics and so on and so forth, because I think it's the desired plan.
But they don't have to happen at once, is my
They don't
point.
have to happen at once. It would be nice if they did.
It would expedite things.
It would make things, yeah, because the decision, now we know where we're going.
Got it.
Okay,
Got it.
now we know what we're doing. Now we know that we can look at, the township can look at its future and say, okay, things are in place.
Now, do the people in town, do the citizens need to know anything legalese about redevelopment? Or do they have to know stuff more than just what we're talking? You're the attorney.
Well, let me just say this.
Put on your attorney hat for a second. Mayor.
Okay, I just want to explain what took place last night, very briefly. And people need to know exactly how redevelopment defines in the law. And so I
there's
brought
some
that along.
legalese here.
A little bit of legalese. I'm going to keep it at a minimum, but I think it's appropriate that they have
It's tough for an attorney.
it. It is tough. It is tough.
All right, we'll give you 30
natural
seconds.
thing.
You're on.
It's defined in the law as follows: a plan adopted by the governing body of a municipality for the redevelopment or rehabilitation of all or any part of a redevelopment area or an area in need of rehabilitation, which plan shall be sufficiently complete to indicate its relationship to definite municipal objectives as to appropriate land uses, public transportation, utilities, recreational and municipal facilities, and other public improvements, and to indicate proposed land uses and building requirements in the redevelopment area or area in need of rehabilitation, or both.
Basically, you need Plan C, is what it says. You just can't say we're going to redevelop and go on the seat of your plans.
No,
you need
no,
to have
you
a
can't.
detailed plan, what it's for, what it's going to look like, et cetera, et cetera.
That's correct. And there are criteria. There are 8 criteria set forth in the law, land use law, A through H in a particular statute. And each of those is a criteria.
All right.
And what
They'll have to
our
be met, I would assume.
Our developer now will look and see, okay, which criteria fit certain properties, which do, which don't. Okay, they're not necessary, and they don't all have to fit.
Okay, you don't have
No,
to.
they do not have to fit. In fact, a nominal amount of them can fit and yet still be effective and be the basis for it.
Got it.
And that's what our planner did last night. He came forward with respect to the lots that I've mentioned and spoke about various criteria. I won't get into them, but they are in the statutes, and it carried the day with the planning board. So now we're very excited, ready to move on.
Good. So it sounds like the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted.
We hope so. Yes.
Got it. Got it. So part of redevelopment is affordable housing, is COA. There's been a lot of articles in TAP and floating around in the newspapers about the contractors and some bidding and some legal action. What's the bottom line, and where does the township stand?
Okay, here's where we are as of today. Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
And that's a plan. Well,
Can't ask for more than that.
the matter-
We already heard about yesterday, and tomorrow's tomorrow, so.
The matter was taken up by Judge Cassidy, and that is the documents that our council produced had to be produced by July 2nd. We did so prior to that. The court came down with a decision. I have the order in my hand. It was filed on September 9th, but Judge Cassidy, in fact, granted Berkeley Heights immunity. That means that we're immune until a particular time and or an event from any exclusionary zoning litigation. It means no one can sue us.
Right.
Okay, now we have until December 2nd, or I believe it's December 7th. December 7th.
Early December.
Until we have to, at that time, present our plan for the number of housing units that we have. Okay, now in the meantime, we are aggressively attacking who I will call our adversaries, which is the Fair Share Housing group. They have submitted which we would suggest is an absurd proposal with respect to what must be done in this town.
Those are the developers, essentially.
Well, some might suggest that that group carries the developer's water. Yes, some might suggest that, not me, but some might suggest it. And what happens there is we are aggressively attacking that. But more importantly, we're presenting what we believe the law requires us to do, and how that it impacts and how specifically this township can meet that.
Okay.
All right, there is not, we have done an extensive and intensive study with respect to the township, and we feel we're on pretty good ground, and we feel we're in good shape to have all that before the court at that point in time.
Dynamite. So all the developers that came forward, so they're just waiting until this comes out, and then they step up to the plate? Or how does it work
correct.
at this point?
They sought immediate relief. The court denied that relief. There is another entity that came in. They were late, came in this town. They were late. The court allowed them in, but gave them limited opportunity to be involved.
Got it.
Okay, so, which is fine, because the next thing you know, if you don't, you end up with further litigation, and litigation equals costs, and that just
So
is
once this beginning of December rolls around and the township comes forward, this is the number of units, this is where we're going to put them, this is how we want them.
Got it.
Can any contractor bid on that, or just the ones that are in the game right now?
Well, obviously the ones that are in the game are substantial contractors. Anyone can anyone can contact our township. They can contact John Basicolo, who's here with us tonight, our business administrator, and say, I've got a plan. We'll listen to anybody.
Got it.
But understand that we have we have our own township plan in place here as to where we think this township should go, and that we're going to be motivated by that.
And we're going to take a short break in a moment, but before we do that, what is the township's objective with COA, with affordable housing? What's the vision? What's the objective? What are you trying to achieve?
Well, obviously we've got to comply with the law. Okay, we got to apply what the Supreme Court dictates. But
which I know our citizens really appreciate, but in terms of impacting
in terms of
the
impacting,
township and them, there's got to be something you're trying to achieve.
Right. Well, we're trying to get some consistency. We're trying to bring in the kind of housing, while it's certainly affordable, but it's the kind of housing that fits what this town is. Okay, this is a town that sits on the rail line directly to New York City. We have many individuals who work in the large cities and what have you, and we think that those individual citizens of the town require a town that has that kind of panache, I would say.
Well, I think that's a great point. So we're going to take a short break in a moment. First, I want to welcome our live audience. Give yourselves a hand, please. Again, we want to invite everybody to come down and watch the filming of the Mayor's Roundtable, 7 o'clock p.m. every third Thursday in City Hall. Mayor, we got a great guest. John Basicolo is going to be up, our township administrator, talking about getting the roads ready for the winter, and we have some other questions for him. And of course, we have our Ask the Mayor segment as well. But we're going to take a short break right now, and we have a great tip from the Environmental Commission, so relax, stay tuned, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Berkeley Heights is going green. That's right. We're planting trees in Berkeley Heights. With me is the Environmental Commission Chairman, Richard Leister. Richard, what's this planting tree business?
Well, we want to have trees in people's front yards, okay? Trees are good for the environment. They're good for the people of the town. You know, when people drive around towns and they see tree-lined streets, they really find the town attractive. And trees are good because they provide shade, they take up water, they are a valuable resource for the town. There are over 5,000 trees on Berkeley Heights streets, but we're losing trees because trees are dying, buildings are going up, so we are not planting as many trees as we're losing. We want to try to catch up with that. We want to have more trees being planted, so we're asking township people to call the town and
ask for a tree
and tell us they'd like a tree in their front yard. We don't know yet what kind of trees we're going to get, but we're going to have trees that are suitable for the sites. So you're going to have a tree under a utility line that will be not very tall. We don't want to have a 60-foot tree under a utility line. And we're looking at trees in general that are within the right-of-way, that is about 10 to 12 feet from the curb. So call the town hall, call Anna Minkoff, the township clerk. Let me give you the number, 908-464-2700, extension 2220. That's 2220.
So there you go. Let's make Berkeley Heights green. It makes oxygen from carbon dioxide, cools the area, drinks up water, and it just makes the place look pretty. Order your tree today. Welcome back to the Mayor's Roundtable. Now it's three intelligent men around a semi-round table giving you the information you want. It's the Mayor, Robert Woodruff, but we also have our guest. And actually, it's our first return guest, the Township Administrator, John Basicolo. John, thank you very much for coming out tonight.
Thank
we
you, Doc.
appreciate your time.
Pleasure.
So how's everything been going with you come September?
Good. We've been very busy. It's been a very busy summer, and we're going to continue into the fall. We're trying to get prepared for the winter.
Well, you know, that's what everyone's going to ask you, John.
A lot of
How are the
challenges.
roads and when am I going to get repaved?
We've actually done an awful lot of paving. Hopefully the citizens have seen. We've spent probably $1 million or more on paving this past summer. We've got a little bit of money left, and we are going to spend that before the winter comes. So there will be some more roads that will be paved shortly.
Now, when you say we have a little bit of money left, that's township money that's earmarked, or is
This
that
is money
also
that
coming
the
from
council
the?
has put away strictly for paving roads for us. We have a 6-year plan, and every year there's money put away
Got it.
that we're going to be able to use on roads. So our goal is obviously to use every dime that we have available to pave as much as we possibly can.
All right, so now we're on schedule with that.
Yes.
And how are the overall status of our roads? Because we're getting up into winter now. So what's our status?
We've made progress, but quite frankly, we're playing catch up.
We're still playing
We're
catch
still
up.
playing catch up. I mean, there are roads that are bad. Everyone knows that. We're trying to patch as many potholes as we can to try to stretch those until the coming year, till we can do some more paving. But we're going to do as much as we can before the winter comes.
Okay, all right. Now, do we have anything that's going to help prevent wear and tear on the roads? Or is there anything we can do now to make it less traumatic?
We've got a new project that we're working on, which we're going to put brine on the roads this year.
Oh, wow.
Our assistant DPW director, Joe Niosi, came from a town where they use brine. We also checked around with some of the surrounding towns. They've used it, and they've had tremendous result.
Okay.
So what we've done is that, and I'll show you some pictures on this, we've put together our own manufacturing of brine.
All right.
So we've picked up, these are plastic containers that are surrounded by a metal grid. What will happen is 5 of these will be loaded with water. They're
Let's just
275
hold these
gallons
over here
each.
so I can hold a little guy. Keep talking.
There's 275 gallons in each one. The last 2 will be filled with salt. They'll be connected together with PVC plumbing and a pump, circulating pump. What this will do is it will circulate the water over the salt. We will make our own brine. When it gets to 23% salinity, we will then pump it
hold it for you.
into a 5,000-gallon holding tank. And then from there, we will pump it into the actual equipment that will be used to put it onto our roads. This equipment here will be put on the back of a truck, and what it does is it puts out brine at the rate of 40 gallons over I got this wrong, I think. We're 4,208 gallons to do the entire town.
Got it.
So that's what it'll take.
4,000 gallons to do the whole town.
4,000 gallons to do the whole
How
town.
much is it going to cost? Come on.
By us making this, it costs us 15 cents a gallon as opposed to buying it, which is 80 cents a gallon.
Oh, wow.
So we're
Huge
looking at
saving.
one pass through the entire town of $631, give or take.
Now, that sounds a lot less expensive than a pass of salt, if I remember
A
correctly.
pass of salt runs us about 105 tons at $62 per ton. Now,
So-
if we have if we get this down, it's on the road, it dries. We have an event where it's an inch or less. This will actually take care of that snow. We won't have to plow it, nor put additional salt down on it. But really, the major benefit to this is it stops that buildup of ice, as we've had in the past year or two. That's very dangerous. So this is really not about saving money. It's a safety factor for our residents. If we can keep the roads down to more blacktop, it's much better. We've got a safety issue. We're not putting as much salt on the roads nor into our sewers. So there's some additional benefits to it also.
Got it. Mayor, do you think this is going to have an impact on the quality of the roads? Like, will it be better not having to plow them as
Well,
much? What do you think?
I think every time you don't put a plow on a road, that's one more opportunity that we're not digging up the road, okay? And, when you have some roads that have pothole problems to begin with, and then you apply a plow to those roads, you're just doing further damage. I think it's tremendous, and kudos to John and Joe and everybody at DPW for coming forward with this. I know that John has mentioned this is really all if and when, well, not if, when we move, this is all portable.
Yes.
Yeah.
We didn't tie anything down permanently.
Nice,
So
nice.
we can pick it up, and when we have to move the salt dome eventually, this would be moved also.
Got it, got it. Now, if we put a little corn mash in there, can we do that as well, or no?
I think that probably would be a bad idea.
Okay, all right, just stick to brine. Mayor, are there any issues with the redevelopment or with affordable housing that our township administrator needs to elucidate or reinforce for us?
Well,
Are there any issues coming down at your office
John,
that
is
we haven't hit?
John, I can suggest this, and John, why don't you tell us what the BA's role is with respect to dealing with potential contractors and subcontractors?
What we've been doing is the township planner, Mike Mistretta, and myself, meet with these people beforehand. We try to go over basically what the town's looking for and see where they are. Is there a common ground? If we get to that point where it's something that we think meets the criteria, then we would bring it to the council and they would go through the usual process. But that's how we've been handling it on several of them, and I think it's been successful. That's what we've been doing. We have a few more that probably are going to come to us shortly.
Excellent, excellent. Now, we all know that the CVS is coming in and we're really changing the whole traffic pattern on that part of town. Who came up with that traffic design and how we know how efficient it's going to be? Because there's rumblings, because it's all construction area there, that everybody's, oh, I can't get here, I can't get there. So what about, where'd it come from?
Well, that was a professional planner and a traffic engineer took care of the lights. That wasn't us. That went before the planning board to be approved, but that was a very long, drawn-out process.
Yeah, but also that the getting in and out of where the Dunkin' Donuts is, and then the driving through from.
And you have to realize it's not finished yet. You're
understand that.
You're looking at an unfinished product, so you
Yeah.
have to give it a little more time to
Well,
develop.
people are very frustrated, of course, but
It
it's a
takes time.
construction
Well,
zone.
people are always frustrated, okay? It doesn't matter
What, in Berkeley Heights?
Well, it's not just Berkeley Heights. To be
Come
fair, it's not just Berkeley Heights.
Yes.
It's any citizen that may have an inconvenience, okay, and all of a sudden that it's somebody's fault, and it's not always the case. All right, it's not always the case. Now, would we like to wave a wand and have that done tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock? Well, sure we would, but it's just not going to happen. But we think when it's done, you're going to have a much improved Lone Pine Drive. You're going to have a light there, and you're going to have a much safer, I think, at this point in time anyway, a safer method of egress into the large shopping center.
Yes.
And then you're going to have the two parallel roadways, if you would, going through the center back to Lone Pine Drive, which will give us a flow. And right now, until you see it, until it happens, I can understand the frustration. But when they see it, I think the people in town will appreciate that it's better for the town.
Well, and the parking lot has been done over also, and you're going to see some islands with shrubbery. At the end of the day, I think it's going to look much better.
Do you think it's going to help make Berkeley Heights a little bit more of a walking from store to store, from business to business type of town, or?
That certainly is our goal. We're trying to figure out how to encourage people to do that. It's difficult.
No, I know it's hard, but that's kind of where we're going.
That's where we would love to get to. Yes.
Excellent, excellent. So Mayor, we got the planning board is going to vote on the COA, on the redevelopment. Excuse me, on
Correct.
redevelopment.
That's fine.
And then it's got to come to the township committee.
Correct.
Let's say those two things go seamlessly over the next 4 to 6 weeks, right? What happens?
That's correct.
What happens then?
Well,
I mean, do we just sit and wait?
No.
Or
At that point in time, there'll be contracts drawn up. They're in the process now of doing that.
like bidding? When you say contracts?
Well, we're going to there'll be things like requests for qualifications, RFQs that go out, okay? Because this will be a substantial piece of work.
We're probably looking for one contractor to do the whole
Well-
deal, or could they have different contractors on different sites?
You could have different, but there are many advantages to the redevelopment. One of those advantages are you don't have to necessarily take the lowest bidder. You can take who you collectively agree is the best individual to do the job. And along the same lines, there may be individuals large enough to do the redevelopment up at the Little Flower area and also do this. Well, that may be
That's a big job.
A big job, but there's some very, very large companies
Okay.
potentially involved in this. And if that's the case, then that could add additional cost savings. So there's a lot of things, and then you have the issues of the payment in lieu of taxes, which we still have to get to.
The pilot program.
Pilot program, right. So that could afford us certain opportunities. We haven't made a decision yet whether the pilot is the appropriate way to go. Each of us have our own thoughts on that. The redevelopment property, each of those properties could be, quote, pilot, close quote, properties, okay, except for obviously the library, which is being exchanged with the church. So the church gets that. So there's a lot of things here. I think they're all great things for the town. I think they're going to afford us opportunities. I think the landscape of this town in a few years is going to be significantly different, and I think much to the good.
Great.
I think it's going to be great.
So the two case scenarios, the magic wand best case scenario and Berkeley Heights timeframe scenario. I mean, approximately how long do you think would be? We're looking at 2017, 2018 to be done, or we're looking at 2016 to be done?
I think probably early 2017 isn't overly optimistic.
What do you think, John?
For the redevelopment
Yeah.
of the park.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, just I mean, just a ballpark number. We're not going to hold you to that one.
And absolutely,
Yet.
and we don't know whether, I mean, we could easily be, they could be building this and doing
Something else at the same
doing
time.
something else up at Little Flower at the same time, based upon who's doing it and what what they're capable of doing. So, but we do know this: we're going to be in this building while they're building the new building behind us.
So it's been a little bumpy.
All right. Well, that means we're not going to have any cost associated with renting out.
and
Moving slightly.
Yeah, but minimal disruption.
Right. Minimal destruction.
That's great.
And there we go.
Well, John, a lot of good information. I'm excited about the roads. The brining sounds great. It's very cost effective. And hey, maybe we can sell some brine to some other people if we're making it that cheap.
Possibility.
Yeah, no, you guys doing a good job down there. We appreciate it.
We're
Once again,
trying.
if people have any questions, where do they get in touch with
Please call me. My number is 908-464-2700, extension 2232. I'm there every day. Welcome your calls.
you? There you go, Township Administrator John Busicolo. So, Mayor, we're going to take another short break, and then when we come back, we're going to do our Ask the Mayor. We got some questions, all right?
We're ready to go.
So stay tuned, and we're going to get back with our Ask the Mayor segment with Mayor Robert Woodruff. I'm Dr. Donald DeFabio, and signing off with our guest, John Busicolo. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show, and it's that time for the show where you get to ask the mayor your questions. And we have one right here from Suzanne C. You ready, Mayor?
Absolutely.
Here we go. Suzanne says, the commuter parking lot next to the Department of Works buildings is basically empty on most days. I have been there midday during the week and have taken pictures of the lot almost empty. We got pictures now. Why don't we separate the permits and offer those spaces on those to the waiting list? For example, separate the lots into Lot A next to the train station and Lot B next to the DPW. Those on the wait list in Lot B until a space becomes available in Lot A. I'm sure there are many people on the wait list that would be happy to park in that lot. Or install a meter and make the spots by the DPW daily spots, and let's make some money and just keep them filled. There's Suzanne's two-part question.
You know, Doc, when they have pictures, you got to pay attention.
There you go.
And
I got proof.
And I would say to Suzanne, you know, all great minds think alike. The governing body has, within the last 2 or 3 weeks, been addressing this very issue. We're well aware that that lot is underused, to be mild. And we have already put into play the following. We're splitting the lot off into a monthly lot. We are contacting the individuals in an orderly fashion as to how they line up to get the next yearly, okay? And we're going to give them an opportunity at a specific rate to go to that spot. Now, that does not jeopardize their position in line for a permanent spot at a different location closer to the, to the train. We think that solves hopefully 2 problems. One, the empty lot. It gives some people who who need to get proximate to the train from a parking standpoint, and does afford us an opportunity for more income.
Right.
Now, with respect to the meter, that was considered. It's too costly. It's a nice idea, but there's no. If this works, which we think it will, we see this as the way to go.
Perfect.
So, Suzanne, we saw it, and we've been concerned with it, and we're acting upon it.
Perfect. Well, there you go, Suzanne. That's your question answered from the mayor. Send your questions to Tap Into via Bobby Peer from the mayor. It was a great show. A lot of good information. Thanks for your time. We will be back next month, the third Thursday of the month, 7 o'clock p.m. City Hall. Thanks for tuning in. It's the Mayor's Roundtable. I'm Dr. Donald DeFabio.